Okay. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to my channel. I stole my husband's mic because people were saying that they were having a hard time hearing my stream. And so I'm trying out his mic, putting mine to the side for a minute. I love the mic, but it's being quiet. So I'm going to try out this one. Let me know if it's better. Let me know if you can hear the stream better. Sorry yesterday about kind of being quiet during the cooking one. I get so nervous when I'm streaming and my husband, who doesn't stream but he wants to stream, but I'm trying to talk him into streaming. He kind of wants to. He's a little he's just thinks things through sometimes a long time before he does them, but it makes me nervous when he's right behind me. So he was just in the room next to me, and so right now he's downstairs, so I'm a little less nervous, still nervous, a little less nervous, but still nervous. But anyways, I picked up this book, boom, Emma and Joseph, The Divine Mission, to kind of learn a little bit more. And this book is written by Gracia N. Jones, who is the granddaughter of Alexander Hale Smith, who is the son of Joseph and Emma. Yeah, granddaughter, because Alexander Hale Smith is... Okay, hold on, let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. Joseph is her great-grandfather. Great-great-grandfather? Okay. Maybe it's her grandmother. Okay, so because you have Alexander Hale Smith and his family. And then her mother's mother is in this picture. So Alexander Hale Smith's daughter is the grandma to this author. And so this is her great-grandfather, Alexander Hale Smith, which makes Joseph Smith her great-great-grandfather. There we go. There's the family tie. I got it. There you go. Yay! Okay. So one thing, we go back to our lovely D&C 25. Let's go back to... Okay, scriptures, D&C 25, because that's our favorite, is D&C 25. We talk D&C 50 if you guys want to for the fun bit. I love D&C 50. Let's see. Let's get to the... Okay, so a couple things is in her promise, her and both Oliver Cowdery in their blessings were told to watch out for pride. She was also told and thou shalt, so it's verse 7, and thou shalt be ordained under his hand to expound scriptures and to exhort the church according as it shall be given thee by my spirit. And then in this book, it actually gives both Emma and Joseph Smith's patriarchal blessings. They're private, but they're in the book. But they're private, but they're in the book. But they're private. But anyways, let's read. So the patriarch is Joseph Smith Sr. He's the evangelist of the church, the patriarch of the church. So back then it was teachers, priests, evangelists, pastors like that. And so they're like, okay, Joseph Smith Sr., you're the evangelist, you're the patriarch, you give all the blessings in the church. And so he's giving Emma her patriarchal blessing. And once again, it says, thou shalt be blessed with understanding and have power to instruct thy sex. Teach thy family righteousness and thy little ones the way of life. And so once again, you have him reiterating you will have this understanding of the scriptures. You will have this understanding of the church that no one else has, because you are going to instruct thy sex, which is the Relief Society. You will be gifted with the ability to talk to the Relief Society, to teach and instruct them, to guide them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, in this book and another podcast I've watched a few podcasts on Emma. I'm getting tired of them using the word horsewoman. Why can't we just use horseman? Why do we have to use progressive language, feminist language like horsewoman? Like, I almost dropped this book because in the first couple of pages it says horsewoman, and I was like, never mind. It's like, are you going to write a book about Joseph and Emma, or are you going to write a book to cater to females and make them feel like men are suppressing them and we're not empowered and we got to empower ourselves? And yeah, we all know the priesthood is like totally suppressing us and everything, and like we can't do anything because of them. But anyways, and so one of the things is order. Without order, there is chaos. And so there's always been order. And I'm trying to think. There is order. That's why you have the priesthood and the Relief Society, and they have their own separate classes, and then they come together. And it's kind of interesting because every other Sunday you go to Relief Society, and then the next Sunday you're in Sunday school together with your spouse, and then the next Sunday, it used to be church was 3 hours long. You had sacrament, then you had Sunday school where you were together with your spouse, and then you separated to your own classes. But now that they dropped church down to 2 hours, we're talking you go to sacrament, and then you go to one of the classes. So one Sunday it'll be Relief Society, next Sunday it'll be Sunday school where you're combined with the men. And every time we are separated, I like to come home and ask my husband, because we have the same subject. We don't have a different subject. The Relief Society talks about the same subject that the guys talk about. And I asked my husband, he says, so what did you guys come up with today? Here's the subject. What did the priesthood come up with today? I want to see how different. Okay, because this is kind of cool. Because, okay, if you think about it, okay, so it's like, not only do I want to know how different the priesthood differs from the opinion or how they talk from the Relief Society, but also you got to remember that half or more of these men in priesthood are married to the women sitting in Relief Society. And so you have the husbands and wives, but now they're separated. But we don't talk names or certain people's and say, oh yeah, this person's husband, that person's husband, he said this. It's just like, no, this was said during the meeting. And if we know their name, which we're not very good at names, but we might name a name. But if it's like, oh, this person said this, and you know this person. But it's just, I want to know how differently the men differ in how they talk from the women, because like I said, these are the wives of the husbands that are over here doing their thing, and then you have the wives over here doing their thing. Same subject. Because I find it fascinating when two people are married and they constantly disagree. And I look at them and I think, well, what do you guys talk about? How are you guys married? Like, you guys just like either don't talk or bicker all the time, or just agree to disagree and walk away from each other all the time. I don't know. How do you do this? How do you constantly? Is usually I'm pretty on board with everything. Me and my husband are pretty much on board with everything. So, like, I don't really have any opinions that tremendously differ from his. So, especially about feminism, or I would be gone. Just kidding. But one of the things that's amazing, I love about this book, to talk about, Emma Smith was also told here. So let me read this line down here. Okay, so continue. So 14, we're going to verse 14 now. Continue in the spirit of meekness and beware of pride. Let thy soul delight in thy husband and the glory which shall come upon him. Which, in her patriarchal blessing, it does talk about that once again. Let me see if I can get back to that page. I lost the page when I skipped to this one. Okay, here it is. Her patriarchal blessing says, I love how it says, thy soul has been afflicted because of the wickedness of men in seeking the destruction of thy companion, and the whole soul has been drawn out in prayer for his deliverance. I mean, haven't we sometimes all felt like our spouses are trying to be destroyed? It says, thou shalt be blessed with thy husband and rejoice in the glory which shall come upon him. And so in her patriarchal blessing, she's reminded, delight in your husband. This is his glory. You will be. And then here you have, so the Book of Mormon gets passed to the Green family, and they take it serious. Who passes it off to the Young family, who Brigham Young gets a hold of this Book of Mormon. And he goes, I got to meet this prophet. And so Brigham Young and a couple other people, his brother and, or his brother-in-law, his brother, and this Green guy set out to meet Joseph Smith. And so he's like, I got to go meet this Joseph Smith guy. Maybe I was on the wrong page. I thought I was on the right page. And so Brigham Young goes to Palmyra. He goes to Palmyra to go see this. Okay, yeah, John P. Green. Okay, so here we go. So Brigham Young has reached him and John P. Green and John Green's brother-in-law, Brigham Young, Brigham's brother Joseph, and Heber C. Kimball. Some big names there. Go to meet this prophet. They got to meet this prophet. And this is amazing because this is what Brigham Young says about meeting the prophet. So they go and they find Joseph Smith Sr. and Joseph Smith Sr. says, oh, he's out in the woods chopping wood. And they're like, okay. So they rested for a minute and they said, okay, let's go find this prophet. And they go out in the back, and sure enough, he's out there with his brothers chopping and hauling wood. Just being a regular guy, just a prophet, being a regular guy. And he says, okay, we immediately repaired to the woods where we found the prophet and 2 or 3 of his brothers chopping and hauling wood. Here my joy was full at the privilege of shaking the hand of the prophet of God and receiving the sure testimony by the spirit of prophecy that he was all that any man could believe him to be as a true prophet. He was happy to see us and bid us welcome. We soon returned to his house, and he accompanying us. So imagine meeting Joseph Smith, shaking his hand, and the Spirit telling you this is so true. This man is the prophet of God. You are shaking a prophet's hand, and you're sitting there shaking his hand going, wow, he is just more than any man like you could ever expect. Like, I heard Joseph Smith was a very stunning looking kind of guy. Like, he tall, blonde, blue eyes, like very striking features. I've studied his death mask and stuff to kind of get an idea of what he looks like. Like, there is a picture. I'll show you what they kind of think Joseph Smith looks like. Joseph Smith, the closest picture of Joseph Smith that they think, and I think his grandchildren like this one, or children like this one the best. Is this one is literally the closest to, made from his death mask. This is the closest one that resembles him, that actually looks like him. It's this one. If you look up this photo, and you could tell because if you look at the death mask, he does have the little chubby lips and the long nose and the chubby cheeks and the long eyebrows. And I mean, this does look like his. If you look at this picture right next to his death mask, it does look like, it's like, okay, yeah, I think they did get the picture of Joseph right. It's like that definitely does look like Joseph. This one is more of him being blonde because I hear he's blonde. But like, so you meet this guy and he's just like, ultimately he's just beautifully striking, and he's very like playful too. Like, the prophet was known to be very playful, and he loved to beat people in games and stuff. And it's kind of interesting because the Lord always chooses people who are not like, he always chooses people who are very different and sometimes have problems. Like, Joseph Smith needed a scribe. At one point, he was farming and praying and telling the Lord, I really, really need a scribe. I want to finish this Book of Mormon, but I can't do it by myself because he can't write. And the only reason why he can spell some of these words out to Emma, for her to pronounce them for him, because Emma is educated. Like, when he comes across the word like Zarahemla and stuff in Sariah, like, he had to say, Sariah, and she's like, oh, that's Sariah. And so he's like praying for this scribe because he needs a scribe. He can't, because like, how much faster would he got the Book of Mormon done had he been way educated and been able to just be like, oh, I'm writing down the sentences myself. But no, he had to have a scribe. Moses had to have Aaron speak for him, because he had a speech problem. And so every time, they never portrayed in any of the movies or anything, and I wish they would make a more accurate movie to Moses, because it would be interesting to see this Moses that had to have Aaron speak for him. And so not only is Moses coming to Pharaoh to say, let my people go, but he's bringing his brother Aaron to speak for him. And so can you imagine if Pharaoh's not looking exactly at Moses and saying, is this what you want, Moses? He's looking at Aaron talking to him. And he's saying, you want your people released. And Aaron's like, do it, or, and Moses throws down a staff and it turns into a snake, and it looks like to Pharaoh you can imagine that it kind of looks like the Pharaoh that Aaron's doing a lot of this. Aaron's doing the talking. Aaron's the Hebrew. According to Pharaoh, like, yeah, Moses by blood is a Hebrew, but he was raised Egyptian. He was raised in an Egyptian palace by an Egyptian mother. He's Egyptian for all Pharaoh knows. He's his brother. And here Moses is standing here beside Aaron, Hebrew he barely even knows, saying, no, this is my brother. My brother is Hebrew. I am Hebrew. I am part of the Jews, and you are holding them captive. And so I wish they would show a more accurate one. Somebody make a more accurate movie and put Aaron in there. And let's see, like, we can sit here like all day. It'd be fun. But like, we can sit here and talk about prophets and their problems. I love the story of King David. He faltered. God gave him everything. Strength to beat his foes, a kingdom, wives and concubines, riches, a kingdom, and he threw it all away for Bathsheba. And it's just like, wow, God gave you everything. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you want. My husband likes talking about the second coming. He's got a lot of these Michael Rush books. I read this one last night because we were doing Come Follow Me. And something came across Come Follow Me that struck me very interesting last night. It said that after the millennium, so after the 1,000 years that we live with Christ, it said that people will start to murmur and turn against their God. And I thought, well, how can that happen? How can it happen? You just got done living with Christ for 1,000 years. You spent 1,000 years with Christ. Christ leaves. You're still on the earth for a minute. And all of a sudden, you start talking against him? Whoa, Okay. But this is the kind of things me and my husband talk about, and it's interesting. And it was what chapter was it? It was chapter 26, The End of the Earth. So if you have the Michael Rush Revelations book or audio book, you can go get it. It's chapter 26 that answers this question. It's actually on 239, not 237. His numbers are off. I don't know how they're off, but they're off. But he answers, well, my husband had me pull out this book because he answers that question very, very nicely. So there's a brief period when the 1,000 years is over, before the rapture, where Christ and Michael, Adam, fight Satan, Lucifer, and his armies. So it's Christ and Michael and their armies against Satan and his armies. So we'll live for 1,000 years in peace. And then what'll happen is, for a moment in time, they're going to fortify and gather their armies. So Michael and Christ are going to go gather their army, and Lucifer is going to go gather his army. And during that time, there will be a vulnerability again on this earth where we can falter. Even though we just spent 1,000 years with Christ, we can still falter. And so it's very interesting. And so if you want to hear us talk about those kind of subjects, let me know. And then I can show my husband the comments and say, see, people want to see us talk about this kind of revelation stuff, and bring stuff like Michael Rush and Christian Homestead and all the people we listen to into this, who we our opinions kind of align with. I mean, don't always 100% agree with them. We don't 100% agree with everybody, but for the most part, a lot of what they say makes sense, and it's like, and it makes you think. And we could do those kind of, and we can think. And should we go over DNC 50 real quick, just for the fun of it? Because it's funny. So Joseph Smith has the Urim and Thummim, and the Urim and Thummim is like a direct phone to God. Pick up the phone, call God, say, hey God. So that's kind of like what the Urim and Thummim is like. It's like you have this direct phone that only goes to God. Nobody else. You just pick up the phone and it goes to God. And what DNC is about, what I never knew what the Doctrine and Covenants were about. I never read them my whole life, not until now. And then what I found out what they were about is they're all about Joseph and the restoration, and this Urim and Thummim that he's speaking to God and giving people blessings and directions and changes in the church, and how he's doing, because he's got this direct line to God. And in DNC 50, he picks up that direct line to God and he says, hey God, guess what? We're encountering spirits on this earth, and I don't think they're good. He's like, I don't think you're sending them. He goes, I don't think they're angels. And God replies to him and says, no, Joseph, you know this. You know what my spirit feels like. You know these aren't from me. And he tells him, Satan mocks everything I do. This is Satan. He's mocking you. Don't trust it. You know how to trust it. He says, I've taught you how to trust it. He goes, I've taught you what my spirit feels like. He goes, so I will have mercy on you guys, because you guys are having a hard time deciphering what's good or bad. But I'm going to tell you right here and right now how to decipher it. And then I expect you guys to know, when I send a spirit, this is how I send it. And so I love it, because it's like you got this direct line to God, and you're like, hey God, is there really ghosts? And it's funny because it answered a lifelong question that I've been asking since I was a teenager. People say, do you think there's ghosts, Rose? Do you really believe in ghosts? And I've always said, well, there was the 1/3 that fell, that didn't get their second estate, which is your body. So you didn't get your second estate. And when you didn't get your second estate, you're still in your first estate, which is that form we were in. So they don't even have, they mimic our looks because they don't even have a body to look. So they look however they look, still in the pre-existence. And so they take over our bodies, and they mimic our bodies, and they mimic the dead that have passed. And they do this because Satan mocks everything we do. And Joseph and the saints are now coming across this. So it's very interesting that Satan is working this hard on the saints. That Joseph is like, hey, God, I got to ask you about ghosts. Something that like all of us wonder about all the time. Like all of us wonder about this all the time. And we've all asked ourselves this question. And so if I had known DNC 50, I would have seen that I was right. That there are that 1/3, that there are the fallen ones, and Satan is out there. They're not bound to hell yet. There's no like you die and then you go straight to hell, heaven or hell. It's that black and white. But you're bound to Satan, and when you bind yourself to Satan, you bind yourself to aimlessly wander this earth in spirit form and do his bidding. which he mimics angels in miracles and stuff. And so if anybody ever questions, is this heavenly or is this Satan, read D&C 15, pray, and you'll get your answer. So D&C 50 is the answer to all that. But yeah, let me know if you guys want to see some of this podcast turned towards, like I said, some second coming talk where we can discuss certain subjects like the Watchers. Just kidding. But that'll be fun. But just everybody remember, like we have order, and it's okay to be a woman and to be able to expound and exhort in your area, which is the Relief Society, which is women things, because we are women and we know women things and we know women feelings and we know what it's like to be a woman. The old definition of what is a woman. Not the newer one. Like that you just have to feel and dress like a woman and you're a woman, because that's not a woman. That, and you have, we are all given that. I take Emma Smith's promise as every woman should take on this promise. Like Emma's the first woman to take on this promise with the Lord, and there's a reason it's there, D&C 25, for us to read and to learn and to know and to understand, so that we can make the same promise to walk with virtue, to expound and exhort to our own sex, to comfort and be there for our husbands who are the Lord's servants, who we will be there not in meekness, not in pride, and we will delight, we will let our souls delight in them and their glory, and let their glory be our glory. And everything that shines on them shines on us. I have a scripture written downstairs. What is it? It's 1 Corinthians. I'm trying to think. It's 1 Corinthians. I don't think it's 11, is it? Is it 11? Oh my gosh, I'm so good. 11:3, 1 Corinthians 11:3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. So you got God, Christ, man, woman. So the head of every man is Christ. So every man should be a servant of Christ. So if you look, Emma's promise matches 1 Corinthians, which is in the New Testament. 1 Corinthians, this is Paul talking to the Corinthians. And so this is another epistle of Paul, which we believe in the epistles of Paul according to the 13th article of faith. And so every head of every man is Christ, because every man is a servant to the Lord. And the head of every woman is the man, because we delight in their glory. And the head of Christ is not even at the top. He is, I read the scripture the other day, he is the least. And the least is the greatest. And the least answers to God. And so that's how it works. And Emma's promise perfectly 1 Corinthians. Emma's promise is perfectly right there in 1 Corinthians. So either, Joseph really knew that Bible really well when he gave this promise in D&C 25, or this promise was from God. Because it basically, yes, he either knew the whole Bible really well, which I don't think he did, That if not even pastors know the Bible that well. They study it all week long, and then they preach it on Sunday, and then they study it all week long and preach it on Sunday, and they study and preach it and study and preach it. And by practice makes perfect. And so every time they study and preach and study and preach and study and preach and study and preach. And Joseph never did that. He didn't study and preach. He didn't study and preach and study and preach. He had the Urim and Thummim, and he asked and got answers. He knocked and answered. So read 1 Corinthians 11:3 and read D&C 25. And then for the fun of it, go to D&C 50. For a little faith that Satan always mocks Christ. You can go to D&C 50 and learn that happens, and the Lord will teach you the difference. All right, well, let me know what you guys think, and let me know. I'm going to be doing so we're starting this new kind of like keto / carnivore kind of diet kind of thing. Not a lot of carnivore. We're dipping in a little bit to the carnivore diet, and we're doing a lot of keto diet. And so I'm going to be baking a little bit more new ingredients. I'm using almond flour, coconut flour, tapioca flours, chia seeds, psyllium powders, all kinds of stuff to make new kinds of breads and stuff like that. And I made some flatbread, and I'll have to take a picture of it for you because I didn't. And last night I made that cream of chicken soup because I make tater tot casserole, which is a layer of meat, a layer of cream of mushroom soup, and a layer of tater tots. And then you bake that for an hour, and then you put cheese on top and bake that for 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes till the cheese is melted, and then you eat that. And so last night I had to find a more healthier version because tater tots are bad for you, and so is cream of mushroom soup. So I had to home make my cream of mushroom soup, and I had to basically also home make my tater tots. And so I did a video last night doing that. It's a little silent. I'm sorry. I just get so nervous. I really just, I don't like people just sitting there watching me while I stream. Like, well, especially my husband. Like, I don't mind, people chatting with me on the internet and talking to me, and I don't care what people on the internet think of me. I don't care. But in my own household, I get nervous around people because I do care what they think. I do care what they think of everything I say and everything I do on stream. And so, like, it makes me nervous when they're, like, right behind me. And they can hear everything I say, and they can see everything I'm doing, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so nerve-wracked. It's like, never mind. So I'm going to try and do more cooking for you guys and do better and show you guys this new keto carnivore thing. And we're tweaking some of the recipes. Like, I had to learn about the flours and tweak the recipe because the first time I made the flatbread, it failed miserably. But we still ate it. It just tasted a little eggish. But, because it was only 2 ingredients, and I turned it into like 6 ingredients now. So I got a flatbread with more like 6 ingredients now. So anyways, I'm going to also, I'll be up here talking religious things more. Maybe cross your fingers, I can talk my husband into coming up here and we'll talk some other things. And also, like I said, I will be doing some cooking videos and showing you our new healthy diet, healthy way we cook, the new keto carnivore thing that we do. And so, like, there's 3 people I watch on YouTube. There's the Steak and Butter gal. She does the carnivore diet. And then there's Chris from Nashville. And then, who else is the other guy? There's, let me look these up so you guys can know who I'm getting these recipes from, or these ideas from, the first part of the recipe, and then I tweak it a little bit. And so, there is, let's see, who is, let's see, let's see, and there's this other guy that, so yeah, the Steak and Butter gal, she likes to snack on butter. That's her candy bar. And then there's Chris from Nashville. And then there's one more guy. Yeah, Chris Cooking Nashville. He's good. And Cooking with Dave. Dave does bagels. Oh my gosh, you can do bagels. Easy low carb cottage cheese bagels. So, I will be looking at these recipes and I will try and do them. Some of them will mess up and some of them we won't. And we'll see how they go. And if we mess up, we'll just tweak it. And so watch for those videos and let me know what you guys think. And so sorry, I'll try and talk more on the cooking videos and just be like, we'll just do it. Okay. All right. Well, love you guys. We'll see you later. Have a blessed day and let me know. And let me know in the comments. And I will be there and I'll be watching them and I will comment right back at you. Because I finally downloaded YouTube Studio on my phone so I can answer. I don't there's a husband. Just kidding. So I don't have to come upstairs to my computer to check my comments or my stats. I can just check it downstairs from my phone. All right. We will see you guys later. Thanks for listening. And let me know if the new mic works better. Okay. Does this new mic work better than that mic? Or do I need to go back to that mic and I can give my husband this one back? All right. Well, let me know. Yeah. Bye.